The chair scraped sharply across the ballroom floor just as I bent my knees. For half a second, my body kept moving toward a seat that was no longer there. My left hand caught nothing but cool air. The edge of the tablecloth brushed my wrist. A champagne glass rattled against a plate, and then my lower back struck the polished stone floor with a force that drove every breath out of me. Pain burst through the old surgical site above my hips. It was hot, precise, and deep enough to make the ceiling lights blur. The room erupted in laughter. Someone clapped. A man near the dance floor shouted that Kendra had finally pulled off the prank she had been talking about all morning. The photographer lowered his camera for a moment, smiling as if he had just captured a harmless piece of wedding comedy. My sister stood behind the empty space where my chair had been, one hand still wrapped around its carved wooden back. Her bridal veil trembled against her shoulders as she laughed. I tried to push myself upright. My palms slid against the floor. The muscles in my right leg responded, but my left leg felt distant, as though it belonged to someone lying several feet away from me. "Kendra," I managed to say. "I can't feel my foot." Her laughter faltered, but only for an instant. Then she glanced toward our mother. Diane Ellison stood beside the head table in a silver dress, watching me with irritation rather than fear. "Stop pretending," Kendra snapped, her voice rising over the fading laughter. "You're ruining everyone's fun." I planted both hands beside my hips and tried again. A bolt of pain shot from my spine into my thigh. My elbows gave way, and I dropped back against the floor. The guests nearest me stopped smiling. Mother stepped forward, but she did not kneel beside me. She lifted both hands toward the crowd, as though she were calming people after an embarrassing toast. "She has always been dramatic about her back," she said. "Please don't let this interrupt the reception." A man pushed between two tables so quickly that a centerpiece rocked behind him. Dr. Arthur Bennett dropped to one knee beside me. He had been our family doctor for years, and I had known him since I was a teenager. His expression had none of the indulgent concern Mother was performing for the room. "Meredith, don't move," he said. "My left foot is numb." He touched the outside of my ankle, then my calf. "Can you feel that?" "Barely." Someone reached beneath my arm, preparing to lift me. Arthur turned so sharply that the guest froze. "Don't move her," he shouted. "Call an ambulance now." Before I continue, I hope you're doing well today. Stay with me to see what happened next, and please subscribe to the channel if you enjoy stories about women who stop letting their families control the truth. The laughter had vanished. All I could hear was the muted wedding music, the rustle of formal clothes, and my own uneven breathing. Kendra let go of the chair. It rolled backward several inches and struck the wall. "This was supposed to be a joke," she said. She was supposed to catch herself. Arthur looked up at her. "No one is moving her until paramedics arrive." Mother finally came closer. "Arthur, please," she said quietly. "She walked into this room without help. She drove here herself. That has nothing to do with what just happened." Mother crouched just beyond my reach. Her perfume was heavy and floral, the same scent she had worn to every hospital appointment when I was 17. "Meredith, sweetheart, sit up slowly," she said. "You're frightening your sister." I stared at her. Arthur said not to move me. He is being cautious. He is being a doctor. Her mouth tightened. A woman from the venue announced that the ambulance was on its way. Arthur stayed beside me, asking whether the numbness was spreading and whether I could move my toes. I could move 3 of them. The other 2 barely responded. Nora Whitaker pushed through the guests and knelt on my other side. She had been my closest friend for more than a decade and understood my expression before I said anything. "Where's your phone?" she asked. "In my bag." Mother reached toward the chair where I had left it. "I'll take care of her things." "No," I said. The word came out stronger than I expected. Mother paused. "Nora takes my phone and my bag." Nora collected them without asking another question. She put my phone in the inside pocket of her jacket and kept the bag across her lap. Kendra had begun to cry. Several guests surrounded her, rubbing her shoulders and telling her it had been an accident. Owen stood beside her with one arm around her waist, looking from his new wife to me as if he could not decide which version of the room was real. Mother moved toward them immediately. "She did not mean to hurt anyone," she said loudly enough for the nearest tables to hear. Meredith knows Kendra would never do that. I did not answer. The paramedics arrived carrying equipment through the ballroom doors. One of them knelt near my head while another spoke with Arthur. What happened? The first paramedic asked. My sister pulled the chair away while I was sitting down, I said. Mother interrupted. It was a wedding prank. She only slid it a little. Kendra pulled it completely behind her, Nora said. The paramedic looked at me. Did anyone try to stand you up? My mother told me to sit up. My sister kept telling me to stand. Meredith, Mother said, that is not what happened. I turned my head toward the paramedic. Please write down exactly what I told you. He gave a small nod and continued his assessment. They fitted a cervical collar as a precaution, stabilized me, and transferred me onto a rigid stretcher, with Arthur directing the movement. Every inch felt as if metal were being forced between the bones of my lower back. As they wheeled me toward the ballroom doors, a paramedic asked which trauma center had handled my prior spinal surgery. Street Catherine's, Arthur answered. Mother's reaction was immediate. Not Street Catherine's. The paramedics stopped only long enough to look at her. Take her anywhere else, Mother said. That hospital is too far, and I'm sure it's outside her insurance network. It's 25 minutes away, Arthur replied. They have her surgical history. We can take her to the urgent care near our house. She has weakness and loss of sensation after a spinal impact, Arthur said. She's not going to urgent care. The paramedic looked down at me. You're conscious and able to decide. Where do you want to go? Street Catherine's. Mother opened her mouth again. I did not give her time. I am choosing Street Catherine's. Do not let anyone change that. The paramedic acknowledged my decision and continued toward the doors. As we passed Kendra, she stood with her hands pressed against the front of her wedding dress. Her mascara had begun to run. Are you going to sue me? She asked. I looked at her from the stretcher. I had just told her I could not feel part of my foot, and that was the question she chose. I'm going to the hospital, I said. Outside, the March air felt cold against my face. The ambulance doors closed, muting the wedding music and the voices behind us. Nora rode with me. Arthur stayed at the venue long enough to give the paramedics my relevant history, then promised to contact the emergency department. During the drive, Nora opened the notes app on my phone. I'm writing the timeline, she said. Tell me what you remember before the fall. I closed my eyes for a moment. The motion of the ambulance made the pain pulse beneath the straps. June, the videographer, put a microphone on Kendra before the ceremony, I said. She told her it would keep recording until they removed the transmitter. Nora typed. Mother watched Kendra before she pulled the chair, I continued. Kendra looked at her right after I said I couldn't feel my foot. Nora stopped typing. Do you think Diane told her to do it? I don't know. It was the only honest answer available then. At Street Catherine's staff took me directly for imaging. Mother arrived while I was waiting for the first scan and tried to follow me beyond the treatment area. A nurse blocked her. I'm her mother, Diane said. Your daughter is an adult. We need her permission before sharing information. Mother turned toward me. Tell them I can stay. No? The word came more easily the second time. Her face changed, not into concern, but disbelief. You're on pain medication, she said. You should not be making decisions alone. I'm not alone. Nora is here, and I am still able to answer questions. A staff member checked my chart. There is an old authorization listing Diane Ellison, but it expired years ago. Meredith, do you authorize us to speak with her today? No. Mother stared at me as the nurse closed the door. The first scan showed enough damage that the emergency physician ordered an MRI. He explained that the spinal fusion from my teenage accident had placed additional stress on the vertebra above it. I had already developed degeneration at that level and mild osteopenia. The fall had caused a compression fracture and instability near the top of the old fusion. We're also concerned about nerve compression, he said. That would explain the weakness and numbness. Will I need surgery? The spine team needs the MRI before making that decision. How long before I can work? He did not offer false reassurance. We should discuss that after we know whether the weakness improves. A technician transferred me for the MRI. As the table moved beneath the machine, the smell of disinfectant and warm plastic brought back a room I had spent years trying not to remember. I was 17 again, lying beneath hospital lights while Mother stood beside me, holding a thick folder. She had answered every question before I could open my mouth. "You rest," she had told me. "I will handle everything." A year later, during another stretch of physical therapy and pain medication, she had placed several papers on a tray across my bed. "They only let me pay your bills and talk to the insurance company," she had explained. "Sign here so nothing is delayed." I had signed. I remembered the pressure of the pen against my fingers more clearly than I remembered the words on the pages. The MRI confirmed the damage. The surgeon explained that the fractured vertebra was unstable above my previous fusion, and the weakness in my leg had not improved. He recommended surgery to extend the fusion and relieve pressure on the affected nerves. I asked about the risks, the alternatives, and what would happen if I waited. Nora sat beside me and wrote down every answer. Mother called her 3 times during that conversation. Nora silenced the phone without reading the messages aloud. I signed the surgical consent myself. That evening, a hospital financial counselor came to my room to review insurance and expected costs. My employer-sponsored plan would cover most of the hospitalization, though I would still face a deductible rehabilitation expenses and lost income. Then she paused at one entry on the screen. "There is also an older medical expense trust connected to your original spinal injury," she said. "It appears to have paid for hardware monitoring in the past. That trust was exhausted years ago." She turned the monitor slightly away, protecting information even though the room was private. "I can't tell you its current balance. We would need your written authorization to contact the administrator, but the record is still active." My mother told me it had been closed. The counselor studied my face, then chose her words carefully. "The administrator may have other settlement documents that are not part of the hospital billing system. Those records would have to be released directly to you." Nora looked up from her notes. I thought about Mother objecting to Street Catherines. I thought about the expired authorization, the papers I had signed at 18, and the speed with which she had tried to take my bag. For the first time that day, the pain in my back was not the only thing holding me still. "What other settlement documents?" I asked. The counselor closed the billing screen. "That is a question only the administrator can answer." The settlement administrator's office was closed for the weekend, which meant there was nothing I could do until Monday except lie in a hospital bed and wonder how much of my own life had been hidden from me. The spine surgeon returned shortly after midnight with the final MRI results. The fracture at the 3rd lumbar vertebra had made the level above my old fusion unstable. Bone and swollen tissue were pressing against the nerves that served my left leg. He recommended extending the fusion upward and relieving the pressure around the nerve roots. "What happens if I wait?" I asked. "The weakness could improve on its own, but the instability makes that unlikely. Another shift could cause more damage. How much function could I lose?" He did not answer with a percentage. "That is what we are trying to prevent." I asked him to explain the procedure again without medical shorthand. He drew a rough diagram on the back of a consent packet, showing where the old hardware ended and where the new support would begin. Nora wrote down the risks while I asked about infection, further nerve injury, recovery time, and whether the surgery would eliminate the pain. "It should stabilize the injury," he said. "It may improve the numbness and weakness. I cannot promise you will return to the condition you were in before the fall." I appreciated the honesty even though it frightened me. Mother had spent years presenting my ability to work as proof that my original injury no longer mattered. The surgeon was explaining something far more truthful. I had built a functional life around a damaged structure, and Kendra's joke had broken the balance that allowed it to hold. I signed the consent myself. The surgery took place Sunday morning. When I woke, my throat was dry. My back felt as though it had been tightened inside a metal frame, and a nurse was asking me to move my toes. My right foot responded. My left followed more slowly, but all 5 toes moved. The relief that crossed the nurse's face told me how uncertain the outcome had been. Nora sat near the window with my phone charging beside her. She had changed out of her wedding clothes and into jeans and a sweatshirt someone had brought from her apartment. "How long was I out?" I asked. "A few hours." The surgeon said everything went as planned. "Did my mother come back?" "She tried." I turned my head toward her. Nora lifted the phone. "She called the nurse's station, the front desk, and me. She also told your aunt that I was isolating you while you were under the influence of medication. That was fast. She had plenty of practice. I wanted to smile, but even a small movement pulled against my incision. Nora handed me water through a straw. Kendra posted that the wedding ended early because you had a medical episode. She pulled my chair. I saved the post. Do not respond. I wasn't planning to. I meant me. She understood. I had spent most of my career teaching other employees not to react before the facts were preserved. Yet anger kept rising through the medication. I wanted to type one sentence that would make every guest remember exactly what they had seen. Nora placed the phone farther away. You can answer them after your nervous system stops being the emergency, she said. That afternoon, Arthur came to see me. He entered quietly, carrying no flowers and no expression that suggested a social visit. He closed the door after confirming I wanted to speak with him, then pulled a chair near the bed. I owe you an explanation, he said. About my mother? About something she sent to my office. Nora asked whether I wanted her to leave. Stay, I said. Arthur rested his hands on his knees. About 2 weeks ago, Diane asked me to sign a letter stating that your chronic pain and medication affected your ability to manage financial decisions. My fingers tightened around the edge of the blanket. What medication? She listed an opioid prescription, a muscle relaxant, and medication for nerve pain. I have not taken prescription opioids regularly in years. I know, that was one reason I refused. What was the letter for? She said an attorney needed it to help with a temporary conservatorship petition. The room seemed to narrow around his words. A conservatorship over me? She claimed you had begun making impulsive decisions about an old settlement and that someone needed authority to protect the funds. I did not even know those funds still existed. Arthur looked down. That concerned me. Why didn't you call me? I tried the number listed in my office records twice. Your mother answered once and said you were sleeping. The second call went to voicemail. That number belonged to her house. I know that now. You have treated me as an adult for years. Yes. Then why was she still the primary contact? Arthur did not hide behind policy. Because I allowed an old arrangement to continue without verifying it. Diane had handled your appointments when you were young. When you became independent, I should have changed the system formally instead of assuming everyone understood the boundaries. I studied him. He was not asking me to absolve him. That made his admission easier to hear, but not easier to forgive. What were you planning to tell me at the wedding? Only that your mother had submitted paperwork in your name and that you needed to call my office Monday. I would not have discussed details in the ballroom. Did she know you planned to speak to me? I told her I would not sign anything without talking to you directly. That answered one question. Mother had not objected to Arthur's presence because she feared he would diagnose my back. She had feared he would establish direct contact with me before she finished whatever she was trying to do. Can you preserve everything she sent? I asked. Yes, I already instructed my office not to alter the portal messages or attachments. I want copies released to me and to my attorney once I have one. Arthur nodded. I will cooperate. That does not erase the fact that you let her stay inside my records. I understand. He looked older when he left than when he entered. Monday morning, Nora helped me call the settlement administrator. I completed several identity checks, answered questions about my original claim, and submitted a written request for every document associated with my name. The representative explained that the settlement created after my accident had two separate components. The first was the medical expense trust the hospital had identified. It had been used for uncovered treatment costs when I was younger. Its remaining balance was small, but it was still open because it had never been formally terminated. The second was a structured settlement annuity. I asked her to repeat the phrase. She explained that the annuity had issued payments at scheduled ages. Several had already been paid. A final payment of $420,000 was due on April 17th, 4 weeks away. I stared at the wall opposite my bed. My mother told me the settlement was exhausted before I finished college. I cannot comment on what she told you, the representative said. Our records show the scheduled payments were made according to the instructions on file. To what account? I can provide the account history after your document request is processed. I can tell you the current destination account was designated through a financial power of attorney. Diane Ellison? Yes. Can she change it again? There is a pending request to update the destination account for the final payment. My pulse began to climb. When was that request submitted? 3 business days ago. The request had been submitted before the wedding. Do not process it, I said. I cannot stop a valid instruction based solely on a phone objection. You can submit a formal revocation or have counsel contact our legal department. I am adding a dispute notation, but you need to act quickly. I want every communication in writing. I will send the process to your verified email. After the call ended, Nora remained silent while I absorbed the dates. Mother had approached Arthur about conservatorship 2 weeks before the wedding. Someone had submitted a new destination account 3 business days before Kendra pulled my chair. Arthur had intended to speak with me at the reception. The prank had not been invented because Kendra was bored. It had been timed. Mother called 10 minutes later. Nora looked at the screen. You do not have to answer. I need to know what she thinks I know. I turned on speaker, but did not record the call. Texas law might have allowed me to, but I did not want to improvise evidence while medicated and exhausted. Nora opened her notes instead. Meredith, Mother said, I have been trying to reach you. The hospital knows I do not authorize them to share information with you. I am your mother. That is not an authorization. She exhaled sharply. Kendra has not stopped crying. Her wedding has been destroyed, and now people are saying she injured you on purpose. She pulled the chair on purpose. It was a joke. There is a difference. The fracture does not know the difference. Her voice softened, which meant she was about to ask for something. I only want to make sure your bills are handled, she said. You are on strong medication, and this is not the time to make financial decisions. Tell the hospital I can continue managing the settlement account until you recover. Why is there a final annuity payment due next month? Silence stretched across the line. Who told you that? The administrator. You should not be calling financial offices in your condition. That is not an answer. That money was structured for the family because the entire family suffered after your accident. My name is on it. I gave up years of my life taking you to therapy. Your father worked overtime. Kendra spent her childhood in waiting rooms. Do not reduce that history to a name on an account. Did I authorize you to use my payments for Kendra's company? You authorized me to handle the funds, for my benefit. Keeping the family stable benefited you. There it was. Mother did not sound like someone who believed she had stolen anything. She sounded offended that I questioned her right to decide what belonged to me. Do not submit another instruction in my name, I said. You are confused. I am ending this call. If you revoke my authority while you are on those drugs, an attorney may have to ask the court whether you are capable of making that decision. The threat was wrapped in concern, but it was still a threat. Then let the court look at the facts. I ended the call. Nora saved her notes and sent them to my email. For the first time, I understood that Mother's favorite weapon had never been anger. It was paperwork, followed by a story explaining why the paperwork was an act of love. Later that day, the administrator sent a partial account history. I could not yet see every transfer, but one line included a memo reference tied to a venue deposit. I recognized the venue name immediately. It was the hotel where Kendra had held her wedding. The payment date was 6 months earlier. My judgment failed me then. Instead of waiting for legal advice, I called my father. Russell answered on the 3rd ring. Meredith, how are you feeling? Why is my name connected to Kendra's venue payment? He did not ask what document I had seen. He did not sound confused. He became quiet. Dad, this is not something to discuss while you are in the hospital. It is exactly what we need to discuss. Your mother handled the accounts. She was trying to keep everyone afloat. With my money? Let us handle this as a family. The phrase told me more than a confession would have. How much does she know I have discovered? I asked. What? You are going to tell her about this call as soon as we hang up. Meredith, do not turn this into a war. It became a war when you used my name and decided I was not allowed to know. I ended the call. But the damage was already done. Nora had been standing near the window. You warned them. I know. I hated how quickly I had abandoned the caution I expected from everyone else. I had wanted my father to deny it convincingly. Some part of me had still been searching for one parent who had not known. Instead, I had given them time to move. Nora contacted a lawyer she knew through a former colleague. By that evening, Camille Reyes was speaking with me by secure video. She listened without interrupting while I explained the trust, the annuity, the conservatorship letter, the pending account change, and my call to Russell. When I finished, she asked one question. Has the administrator confirmed whether the destination change has been approved? Not yet. Then we still have time. She explained that I could revoke the financial power of attorney because I had not been declared incapacitated. The revocation needed to reach every institution that might rely on it. She would also send preservation demands and prepare a limited court request to stop the final payment from being redirected while the account history was examined. Can we freeze everything? I asked. No, and we should not ask for more than we can justify. We protect the payment due next month, preserve the records, and trace the earlier transactions. Then we decide what the evidence supports. Her restraint made me trust her more than a promise of immediate victory would have. My secure email chimed while we were still speaking. The administrator had sent an urgent notice. The pending request had been amended after my call with Russell. Someone had uploaded new banking instructions and a fresh certification claiming the power of attorney remained valid despite my objection. Camille read the notice twice. They moved because you asked a question, she said. I gave them the warning. Yes, that was a mistake. I waited for criticism. Instead, she continued, now we stop making the next one. She instructed me not to call my parents, Kendra, the bank, or anyone connected to the company without speaking to her first. She would prepare the revocation that night and contact the administrator's legal department when it opened. I looked at the date on the notice, then at the surgery band around my wrist. Mother had waited more than 20 years for the final payment. She was not going to surrender it because I had finally learned it existed. Camille closed the document on her screen. They are not only hiding what happened, she said, they are trying to finish it before your birthday. Camille arrived at the hospital the next morning carrying a legal pad, a slim laptop, and none of the false confidence people often mistake for reassurance. She pulled the visitor's chair to the foot of my bed rather than beside my shoulder. It gave me enough space to breathe without feeling watched. Before we discuss what your mother may have done, she said, we need to separate 3 things. She drew 3 columns across the top of the page. What you know, what you remember, what you suspect. I know there is a $420,000 payment due next month. She wrote it in the first column. I know someone tried to change the destination account using the power of attorney. She added that beneath the first line. I remember signing papers when I was 18. That goes in the second column. I suspect my mother has been taking the money for years. Camille placed it in the third. The distinction frustrated me. But I understood why it mattered. At work, I had taught staff to document facts without filling gaps with conclusions. Now that the missing records belonged to me, patience felt more difficult. I work in compliance, I said. I should have caught this. You work in healthcare quality and internal compliance. That does not make you a structured settlement attorney, a trust administrator, or a forensic accountant. I knew there had been a settlement. You knew the version your mother gave you. I could have asked for the original documents. Yes. Her answer was direct enough to make me look at her. You avoided them, she continued. That may have been a mistake. It is not the same as authorizing fraud. I had spent years refusing to open the old storage box in my closet because every page inside it belonged to the period when I could not shower alone, sleep without medication, or cross a room without someone timing me. Avoiding that box had protected me from memories. It had also protected Mother from questions. Nora drove to my apartment that afternoon and returned with the storage box. The cardboard had softened at the corners, and a strip of clear packing tape ran across the lid. My mother's handwriting was still visible in black marker. Medical. Keep. Nora placed it on the rolling table over my bed. You do not have to do this today, she said. The revocation went out this morning. The administrator's legal department is reviewing it. I need to know what else she has. Camille had already sent written notice to the annuity company, the bank identified in the pending request, Arthur's office, and the trust administrator. She had also warned everyone to preserve records. That did not freeze the world. It did not recover $1. It only created a line in time after which no one could credibly claim they had not known the documents mattered. I cut through the tape with a pair of blunt hospital scissors. The first folder contained physical therapy notes, old prescription lists, and insurance explanations. The second held copies of school accommodation forms and correspondence from the law firm that handled the accident. The third was blue. I remembered Mother carrying it between meetings, always tucked under her arm, as if it contained something too important for anyone else to touch. Inside was a settlement summary. The first page listed legal fees, medical liens, administrative costs, and a number labeled net distribution. Mother had circled the expenses in red pen. At the bottom she had written, "All medical funds exhausted." I turned the page. Then I turned it again. There was no annuity schedule. Camille had asked the settlement administrator for the original court-approved package. A secure copy arrived while we were still going through the box. The original summary contained an additional attachment after the page in my folder. Appendix B, Structured Payment Schedule. The appendix listed payments at ages 21, 25, 30, 35, and 39. It also named the annuity company and the account through which the payments would be delivered. The pages before and after the appendix matched my copies exactly. Someone had not given me an incomplete folder by accident. The missing section had been removed. Nora leaned toward the screen. Could the attorney have sent 2 different versions? Camille will verify that, I said. She did. The settlement firm's archive confirmed that the complete package had been mailed to my parents' home and delivered when I was still in rehabilitation. The cover letter referenced all attachments by name. The copy in my box did not merely lack a page. It lacked the only section that would have told me money was scheduled to arrive throughout my adult life. The first large payment had come when I was 21. At the time, Mother told me the family had refinanced the house because my father's overtime had been cut. She said they were barely keeping up with the mortgage after years of my treatment. I had believed the tension in our home came from debt caused by me. The annuity records showed that a payment had arrived 3 weeks before the mortgage balance was reduced. Another payment had arrived when I was 25, around the time Kendra began college without student loans. At 30, I had received a birthday card from my parents and a lecture from Mother about saving money. The annuity company had issued another scheduled payment 2 days earlier. At 35, Mother told me my original trust had been formally depleted and that she had covered the last hardware scan herself. A structured payment had arrived that same month. The amounts were not enough to create a secret empire. They were enough to keep a mortgage current, pay tuition, cover business expenses, and create a family history in which my parents appeared endlessly generous. That made the betrayal feel more intimate. Mother had not stolen money to flee the country or buy a private estate. She had used it to improve ordinary family life while teaching me that I was the reason ordinary life had been so difficult. Camille filed the civil complaint 2 days after my surgery. She explained every request before submitting it. We asked for a formal accounting of funds handled under the power of attorney, an order preventing changes to the destination of the final annuity payment, and preservation of assets that could be traced directly to the disputed money. "We are not asking the judge to freeze your parents' entire lives," she said. "We protect the upcoming payment first. Then we follow the records." The judge granted a short temporary order covering the final payment and the destination account while the parties prepared for a hearing. The money due in April would not be released to Mother, Kendra, or me immediately. It would be held in an account subject to court supervision until the dispute was resolved. I did not feel victorious when Camille told me. I felt relieved that Mother could no longer move faster than I could recover. The reaction from my family arrived before the formal papers were even served. Kendra posted a video from the wedding. It began after I was already on the floor. The edited clip showed her crying while guests surrounded her. It showed me raising my voice when Mother tried to answer for me. It showed the paramedics taking me away and Kendra asking whether I planned to sue. The chair being pulled was missing. Arthur's warning was missing. Mother telling me to stand was missing. Kendra wrote that an innocent wedding prank had become a family legal attack because her sister had always resented her happiness. By evening, relatives I had not spoken to in years were sending messages. One aunt said I should settle privately before I destroyed Kendra's marriage. A cousin asked whether I was really taking money from a small business that supported employees. Another relative wrote that my parents had sacrificed everything for my health and deserved gratitude rather than court papers. I read each message once. Then I sent screenshots to Camille and stopped opening them. Nora stood beside the window, watching me place the phone face down. "You are handling this better than I would," she said. I am imagining several replies. "That is different from sending them." I know. Mother had always won family disputes by speaking first, repeating herself often, and making everyone fear what would happen if they questioned her version. She did not need every relative to believe her. She only needed enough people to pressure me into silence. Camille advised me to release one sentence through her office. Meredith Ellison is recovering from a documented spinal injury and has requested a lawful accounting of funds held or managed in her name. There was no accusation, no medical detail, and no response to the edited video. Kendra called it cold. Mother called it threatening. I called it accurate. My discharge was scheduled for the following day. A physical therapist taught me how to move from bed to walker without twisting my spine. The first attempt left sweat cold across my neck and my left leg trembling beneath me. Nora stood close enough to catch me but kept her hands away until I asked. "I can do it," I said. "You can also fall." "I am not going to fall. You already nearly did yesterday when you tried to reach your bag. That was different. You hid how dizzy you were." I did not want a nurse following me to the bathroom. Nora's expression tightened. "You are acting like accepting help means I get ownership of the story. That is not what I said. It is what you keep proving." I gripped the walker harder than necessary. All my life, Mother had turned assistance into authority. She drove me to therapy, so she spoke for me. She handled bills, so she controlled the money. She sat beside my hospital bed, so she later claimed part of the settlement belonged to her. I had learned to equate dependence with surrender. Nora was asking me to believe help could stop at the boundary I set. "I need you to stand on my left side," I said. She moved there without comment. "If I say do not touch me, do not touch me. I won't. If I ask for help, help me without explaining why I should have asked sooner." A small smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. "That will be harder, but I agree." I took 3 slow steps. The pain did not disappear because I had made a healthy emotional decision. My legs still shook, my back still felt rigid and swollen. But I reached the chair without falling, and Nora did not turn the moment into evidence that she knew my body better than I did. Camille called while I was resting afterward. The bank had responded to the court order. It would preserve the relevant records and had opened its own fraud review. A forensic accountant working with Camille had begun tracing the payments already identified in the annuity history. "Do you remember the name of Kendra's business account?" Camille asked. I gave it to her. "There is a transfer into that account 6 months before the wedding," she said. The amount was $60,000. "For the venue?" "Not directly. The money moved through the company first. Then the company paid the venue, florist, videographer, and a catering deposit. June was paid with my money? Partially, based on the current records." The irony was so sharp I almost laughed. Mother had used my settlement to hire the person whose cameras might show what happened to me. How much of the wedding came from my account? We can directly trace at least $48,000 so far. The wedding was estimated to have cost around $72,000. Kendra and Owen had paid some expenses themselves, and Owen's parents had covered part of the reception. But more than half the event had been funded through money attached to my name. How much went into the company before that? We do not have a complete accounting yet. There were older transfers and several transactions through your parents' joint account. Russell's signature appears on some of them. Does that make him the one who did it? It makes him involved. It does not yet tell us who designed the system. The answer mattered. My father had spent years standing quietly behind Mother, letting her speak for both of them. It would have been easy to decide his silence meant ignorance. The signatures suggested otherwise. Camille sent me a scanned invoice from the hotel. The header carried Kendra's company name. Beneath it was the ballroom rental, lighting package, staff charges, and deposit schedule. At the bottom, the payment reference matched a transfer from the account receiving my annuity money. I remembered that ballroom as a field of faces looking down at me. I remembered the white flowers, the gold-rimmed plates, and Mother telling everyone not to let my injury interrupt the reception. I had believed I entered the room as a tolerated guest. The record said I had helped pay for it. Nora sat beside my hospital bed while I stared at the invoice. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "That they called me selfish in a room bought with my money. Do you want me to call Camille back?" "No." I looked again at the hotel logo, then at the date of the first deposit. 6 months before Kendra pulled my chair away, someone had moved enough of my settlement to secure her wedding. The prank had lasted a few seconds. The entitlement behind it had been built for years. Camille's voice returned through the phone speaker as she explained the next round of subpoenas. Before ending the call, she said, "Meredith, I know this document hurts, but it also answers an important question." "Which one?" "Why your mother needed you to remain the family's unreliable narrator." She paused, then added the sentence that stayed with me through every stage that followed. "You paid for the room where they called you a liar." The court order arrived 3 days after I left the hospital. Camille called it narrow relief, not a victory. The final annuity payment would still be issued on April 17th, but it would go into an escrow account under court supervision rather than the account Mother had tried to designate. No one could touch it until the court decided who had lawful authority. My parents' salaries remained available to them. Their ordinary checking accounts were not frozen. Kendra's company was still allowed to operate. The order protected only the upcoming payment and required the relevant institutions to preserve records. That distinction mattered because Mother immediately told the family I had frozen every dollar she and my father owned. "She says they cannot buy groceries," Nora told me after reading a message from one of my aunts. "She bought groceries yesterday." "How do you know?" "She posted a picture of them." Nora turned the screen toward me. Mother was standing beside a cart filled with flowers, wine, and enough food for a dinner party. "She never lies when a dramatic exaggeration will do," I said. My recovery had moved from the hospital to Nora's guest room because my apartment had stairs at the entrance. I used a walker for short distances and needed help getting into the shower. My left leg had regained more sensation, but weakness remained, especially after physical therapy. Every morning began with pain before it began with thought. Even so, I no longer woke wondering whether Mother had succeeded in redirecting the money overnight. The court order had given me time. Mother responded by trying to take away my right to use it. Camille received notice that Diane had filed an emergency petition for temporary conservatorship. The petition described me as confused, medicated, emotionally unstable, and vulnerable to manipulation by Nora and Camille. Mother attached the edited wedding video, a list of medications from my surgery, and old messages in which I had complained about pain. She also claimed I had suddenly attempted to seize family assets I had knowingly allowed her to manage for years. "She is asking a court to decide that you cannot handle financial matters," Camille explained. "Not permanently at this stage. She is seeking temporary authority while the dispute is reviewed." "Can she get it?" "She can ask. That is different from proving it." Mother's petition included the unsigned letter she had wanted Arthur to endorse. His name appeared at the top, but his signature line was blank. She submitted it anyway, describing it as a medical summary prepared through his office. Arthur's attorney responded within a day, stating that he had refused to sign the document and had not concluded I lacked capacity. Camille recommended an independent evaluation before Mother could use the surgery or medication to create doubt. I agreed immediately. The evaluator met with me by secure video first, then in person once I could tolerate the trip. She asked about the settlement, the court case, my medications, my work, and the consequences of different financial decisions. She did not ask whether I was angry with my mother as though anger erased judgment. She asked whether I understood what anger might lead me to do. "I called my father before speaking to counsel," I said. "That warned them I had found the venue payment." "Was that a good decision?" "No." "What did you do afterward?" "I stopped direct contact, hired counsel, revoked the power of attorney, and asked for limited relief rather than control over every family asset." She made a note. "Why limited relief?" "Because the disputed payment was the immediate risk. Freezing unrelated assets would have been broader than the evidence supported." The questions continued for almost 2 hours. When the report arrived, it stated that I understood my assets, legal options, medical condition, and the consequences of my choices. Pain and prescribed medication affected my stamina, not my decision-making capacity. Mother's petition failed. She did not withdraw it. The judge denied the emergency request and required any further attempt to meet a higher evidentiary standard. I read the order twice. Mother had used my injury as proof that I needed her. The court had recognized that needing help to stand did not mean needing someone else to own my decisions. Kendra called the next morning. I let it go to voicemail. Her message began with crying and ended with an accusation. "You're destroying the company over money you were never even using. I have employees with rent and children. At least call me before you ruin other people's lives." Camille advised me not to meet her alone. Kendra's lawyer proposed a conversation at Camille's office, limited to the civil dispute. By then I had progressed from a walker to a cane for short distances, though Nora still drove me. The conference room had a straight-backed chair waiting at the end of the table. I paused before sitting. No one commented. Kendra entered wearing a cream coat and dark glasses. She looked smaller without the wedding dress and the crowd around her, but not less defensive. Her attorney sat beside her. Camille sat beside me. Nora waited in the lobby because I had decided I did not need her in the room. Kendra removed her glasses. Her eyes were swollen. I did not know Mom had been taking settlement money for years, she said. Camille did not answer for me. When did you first see my name connected to the business account? I asked. After the wedding. What date? I don't remember. You told me in the hospital you had never seen anything. I was panicking. That was not my question. Kendra looked at her lawyer, who gave a slight nod. I knew Mom moved money between family accounts, she said. She always handled that stuff. Did you know one of those accounts had my name on it? Not in the way you are making it sound. How did it sound when you saw it? She leaned back. You have no idea what it was like growing up after your accident. The change of subject was so familiar that it almost calmed me. Every time a question came too close to Mother's conduct, someone reached into my medical history and pulled out a reason I should stop asking. Kendra, when did you see my name? I spent half my childhood waiting outside physical therapy rooms. Mom missed my school events. Dad worked constantly. Every birthday, every holiday, everything depended on how your back felt. I did not choose the accident. I know that. Then why are you saying it as though I owed you repayment? Her voice tightened. Because you got all of them. All of what? The attention, the concern, the excuses. If you were tired, everyone understood. If I was angry, I was selfish. Mom told me the settlement was meant to compensate the whole family because the whole family suffered. There was pain beneath her anger. I could hear it without accepting the conclusion she had built from it. You deserved parents who showed up for you, I said. You did not deserve my money. You were not using it. I did not know it existed. Mom said you signed control over to her. For my benefit. She said the family was your benefit. And that answer was enough for you? Kendra looked away. Her attorney intervened. The company is facing immediate pressure because expected capital did not arrive. My client is asking whether a portion of the escrow can be released pending accounting. No, I said. You did not let me finish, Kendra snapped. I understand the request. The answer is no. My employees had nothing to do with this. Neither did I when you signed contracts using money attached to my name. You are going to shut down everything I built. If the business cannot survive without money you had no right to receive, I am not the person who destroyed it. Kendra's face hardened. For a moment I saw the same expression Mother wore when concern stopped working and control had to become visible. You always wanted me to fail, she said. That is what Mom told you whenever my rights interfered with what she promised you. Kendra stood so quickly that her chair struck the wall. Her attorney touched her sleeve and told her to sit. She remained standing. I did not know before the wedding, she said. Whatever documents you think you have, I did not know. I watched her repeat the sentence more slowly, as though precision could make it true. Then your records should support you, I said. The meeting ended without an agreement. In the elevator, Camille asked how I felt. She lied. You believe she lied. I know how she looks when she is searching for Mother's wording. That goes in the suspicion column until the records arrive. I disliked the answer because it was correct. The records arrived 2 weeks later. Civil Discovery had produced the loan package Kendra submitted when her company expanded 6 months before the wedding. She had applied for a line of credit to cover equipment, vendor deposits, and the larger events she hoped to book. The bank had not sent her private information by mistake. Kendra had included the document herself. A proof of funds attachment showed $60,000 in an account bearing my full name. The statement had been downloaded and added to the application from Kendra's company email. Below it was an email exchange between Kendra and Mother. Kendra had written, "Why is Meredith's name on the money you transferred?" Mother replied, "Because it came from the settlement account, but she signed authority to me years ago. It belongs to the family, and this is your share of what we all sacrificed." Kendra's next message arrived 12 minutes later. Will she ever be able to ask for it back? Mother answered, "Not if the authority stays in place. Stop worrying and sign the papers." Kendra signed the loan documents the following morning. The timestamp was 6 months before the wedding. I read the exchange again, searching for something that made her less aware. She had not known the complete history. She may not have known how many payments Mother had taken or how the power of attorney was supposed to be used. But she had known the money carried my name. She had known I might ask for it back. She had chosen not to ask me. Camille placed the loan package beside the email. "This does not prove Kendra understood every legal violation," she said. "It proves she knew enough to question the source, and proceeded anyway." I thought about our meeting. Kendra had sat across from me and said she learned the truth after the wedding. She had blamed panic, childhood, and Mother's explanations. She had not learned the truth after she hurt me. She had walked into that ballroom already knowing enough. By the time I saw Kendra's second video, more than 12,000 people had watched it. She sat in the living room of the house she shared with Owen, wearing a pale sweater instead of bridal white. There was no music behind her, and no dramatic editing beyond a close frame designed to make the swelling beneath her eyes impossible to miss. She said she had remained silent because she wanted to protect the family. Then she spent 9 minutes telling strangers that I had threatened her business, ruined her honeymoon, and used a harmless wedding prank as an excuse to take money that our parents had managed for decades. She never said she had pulled the chair completely out from beneath me. She called it moving the chair. She never mentioned that I had lost sensation in my foot. She called it a panic response. She never mentioned the surgery. She said I had chosen to remain in the hospital for observation. At the end, she held up a printed copy of Camille's civil complaint. "My sister is trying to take everything my husband and I built," she said. "She has always resented that I found happiness after our family spent years revolving around her medical problems." The comments beneath the video split into 2 groups. People who knew nothing about us praised Kendra for surviving a jealous sister. Relatives repeated Mother's favorite version of my childhood, the brave family that had sacrificed everything for the injured daughter who never learned gratitude. But several wedding guests asked why the video did not show the moment the chair was pulled. One woman wrote that she had heard Arthur warn everyone not to move me. A man seated near our table said Mother had tried to stop the ambulance from taking me to Street Catherine's. Those comments disappeared within hours. Nora noticed before "She is deleting witnesses," she said. I was sitting at her kitchen table with an ice pack against my lower back and my cane resting beside the chair. 6 weeks had passed since the wedding. I could walk across the room without the walker, but only if I moved carefully and stopped before my left leg began to shake. "Take screenshots," I said. "I already did. Send them to Camille." "Already done." I looked at her. Nora lifted one shoulder. "You trained me well." Camille released one short statement through her office. Meredith Ellison's civil action seeks an accounting of funds managed in her name and compensation for documented injuries. The case will be addressed through evidence, not edited social media posts. Mother called that sentence an attack on Kendra's mental health. Kendra posted that my lawyer had threatened her. Neither claim changed what the statement actually said. The hardest part was accepting that facts could be less persuasive than a face people wanted to believe. Kendra was the crying bride. Mother was the exhausted parent who had spent years caring for a damaged child. I was the older sister asking questions about money after being carried out of a wedding. Their story fit inside a caption. Mine required bank records, surgical imaging, court filings, and a history no one wanted to examine closely. For several days, I considered posting photographs of my incision. I imagined showing the bruising across my back, the walker beside Nora's guest bed, and the physical therapy schedule taped to the refrigerator. Camilla did not forbid it. She asked what I expected the photographs to accomplish. To prove I was hurt. To whom? The people saying I wasn't. If your surgical records do not convince them later, a photograph will not convince them now. I knew she was right. That did not make silence feel dignified. Some days, it felt like surrender. My physical therapist reminded me that recovery had its own schedule, indifferent to family strategy. At first, I measured progress in humiliatingly small distances. The guest room to the bathroom to the kitchen, the front step with Nora standing below me. The numbness in my left foot improved, but the weakness returned whenever I became tired. My back tightened around the new hardware after 20 minutes in one position. Sitting hurt. Standing hurt differently. Lying down too long created another kind of stiffness. I began working remotely for 2 hours a day. My supervisor had approved medical leave, but I insisted I could review reports from Nora's dining table. On the first morning, I finished 1 compliance summary and answered 6 emails before the letters on the screen began to swim. I told Nora I only needed coffee. She closed the laptop. I have a meeting in 10 minutes. You canceled it yesterday. I rescheduled. You told your supervisor the doctor had not cleared you for meetings. I reached for the laptop. I can sit through 1 call. You are not sitting. You are folding yourself around the pain and pretending that counts. I need something that still belongs to my normal life. Then choose something that does not punish your body for being injured. Her voice was sharper than usual, and I felt my own temper answer. You do not get to decide what I can handle. No. But I get to refuse to help you lie to yourself while you are staying in my house. I pushed the chair back and reached for my cane. The movement pulled across my incision. My left knee weakened, and I caught the edge of the table. Nora did not grab me immediately. Do you want help? She asked. The question irritated me more than if she had simply taken my arm. Then I understood why she had asked. Mother had always acted first and called it care later. Nora was waiting for my permission, even while she believed I was making a poor choice. Yes, I said. Help me stand straight. She placed 1 hand beneath my elbow and the other against my upper back, away from the surgical area. Once I was steady, she let go. I am not trying to make you dependent, she said. I know. You do not act like you know. I am trying. That is all I am asking. I reduced my work schedule to 1 hour a day for the next week. It felt like losing ground until I realized my pain was no longer increasing every evening. By the end of May, I could walk the length of Nora's block with a cane and 2 rest stops. I still checked every chair before sitting. The movement had become automatic. I touched the seat, then the back, then watched the legs while I lowered myself. Nora never mentioned it. Owen contacted Camille during the 2nd week of June. He asked for a meeting with me, but Camille warned him she could not advise both sides, and that anything he shared might become relevant to the case. He came to her office with his own attorney. I had not seen him since the ambulance doors closed. He looked tired rather than angry. His wedding ring remained on his hand, though he kept turning it around his finger. I want to know whether you are trying to take Kendra's company, he said. I am trying to recover money transferred from accounts in my name. If the company received that money, what happens to it? That depends on what the accounting shows and what the court decides. Kendra says you want the building, the equipment, and our house. Kendra's company rents its office. You and Kendra do not own a building connected to it. His hand stopped moving. She said the business property was part of the claim. Equipment bought with disputed funds may be part of the accounting. Your personal house is not currently subject to any order. Owen looked at his lawyer, who made a note. What about our joint accounts? I have not asked to freeze them. Kendra said she could not access money because of you. The company expected funds from my annuity. The court prevented that payment from being redirected. That is not the same as taking money already belonging to her. He stared at the table. When did Kendra know the money came from you? I looked at Camille. She answered carefully. Documents produced in the civil case show that Kendra received proof of funds material bearing Meredith's name approximately 6 months before the wedding. Owen's face changed. She told me she found out after the lawsuit. I cannot tell you why she said that, Camille replied. He looked at me. Did she know the amount? The email did not show that she understood the full settlement, I said. It showed that she knew the transferred money carried my name and that she asked whether I could demand it back. And she signed the loan papers anyway? Yes. Owen lowered his eyes. I did not enjoy watching the first crack appear in his marriage. He had not pulled the chair or moved the money, but I also refused to soften what the documents said so he could return home believing the easier version. Did you know about the prank? I asked. No. She told me she wanted to do something funny with the family tables. I thought she meant switching the place cards. Did she tell you why she chose me? Afterward, she said your mother told her you had been threatening to confront them about money at the reception. I felt Camille's attention sharpen. When did she tell you that? The night after the wedding. She was angry because the hospital would not give her updates. Did she say my mother knew I might speak to Arthur? Owen shook his head. She only said Diane wanted everyone to see that you were healthier than you claimed. It was not proof, but it aligned with the pattern. Owen left with fewer answers than he wanted, and more than Kendra had intended him to have. 3 days later, Kendra removed every photograph of him from her public page. She did not announce a separation. She posted a quote about people abandoning women during hardship. I sent the screenshot to Camille without comment. The same week, June Keller responded fully to the subpoena for the wedding footage. Her attorney provided the signed production contract, equipment list, recording schedule, and copies of the raw files preserved in her business archive. Camille arranged a video call with June before any technical review. June appeared from a small editing studio lined with hard drives and labeled storage cases. I want to explain the audio setup before anyone assumes the camera tracks are complete, she said. She shared a page from the contract. Kendra had agreed to wear a wireless transmitter from the pre-ceremony preparations through the major reception events. The contract stated that audio would continue until a member of June's crew physically removed the transmitter or powered it down. June also played a short clip from the microphone check. Her assistant's voice said, "This stays live until we take it off, so do not discuss anything near it you would not want recorded." Kendra laughed. Then I should stay away from my mother. Everyone in the dressing room laughed with her. June paused the clip. That confirms verbal notice as well as the written agreement, she said. What happened after I fell? I asked. The reception became chaotic. My main camera operator followed the paramedics. I went to speak with the venue manager. Kendra removed the microphone from her dress herself. Did she turn it off? No. The transmitter did not have an obvious external power switch because we did not want clients accidentally disabling it. Where did she put it? In her bouquet? The bouquet was on the head table for several minutes. Later, one of my assistants found the transmitter beneath the flowers and powered it down. June explained that the wireless signal had been sent to 2 places. One track went into the main camera. A second went into an independent recorder at the sound station. The public wedding video had used selected camera audio. The independent recorder contained a continuous track. Did you listen to it? Camille asked. Only enough to confirm the file was not corrupted. Once I heard discussion about deleting footage and money, I stopped. I preserved the original card and contacted counsel. That decision mattered. June had not spent days listening for scandal or distributing private conversations. She had recognized potentially relevant evidence and preserved it. She displayed the file information. The audio began before the ceremony and continued for 22 minutes after the moment where Kendra's public video ended. A waveform stretched across the screen. Most of it showed loud music, applause, and overlapping voices. After the fall, the levels changed as the bouquet moved from Kendra's hands to the table. June selected a short section she had already reviewed with her attorney. The first sound was fabric brushing against the microphone. Kendra's voice came through, distant and uneven. What am I supposed to do now? Mother answered from closer to the table. Do not apologize. The recording was not clean. Music thudded beneath the voices, and someone moved a chair nearby. But Mother's words were understandable. Kendra said something the microphone did not fully capture. Mother replied, louder this time. If you apologize, she will use it against you. The preview ended. No one spoke for several seconds. I had heard Mother defend Kendra in the ballroom. I had seen her choose the bride's embarrassment over my body. Hearing her privately instruct Kendra not to apologize was different. It meant her public behavior had not been panic. It had been strategy. Camille asked June to stop playback until a forensic examiner could create verified copies, calculate file hashes, document the equipment chain, and preserve the original media. June agreed. How close was my mother to the bouquet? I asked. Based on the secondary camera, she stood beside the head table several times after the paramedics arrived, June said. Sometimes within 2 or 3 feet. Would the microphone capture her clearly? Some parts better than others. The music and crowd noise will matter. I do not want to promise what an examiner can recover. I respected the answer. Every new piece of evidence had taught me the same lesson. Truth did not become stronger because someone exaggerated it. The cleanest case came from stating exactly what a document, image, or recording could prove and refusing to make it carry more. June opened the recorder log one final time. There is something else, she said. The sound station generated markers whenever the transmitter signal peaked. Several markers appeared after Mother's order not to apologize. One was labeled manually by June's assistant during the preservation review. Payment. Another appeared 6 minutes later. Delete footage. Camille leaned closer to her screen. Did your assistant hear those phrases? She heard enough to flag the sections, but she did not enhance or transcribe them. When can the examiner receive the original card? It is sealed and ready. I looked at the waveform continuing beyond the point where my family believed the wedding record had ended. Kendra had pulled the microphone from her dress and buried it beneath flowers, thinking she had removed the witness. Instead, she had placed it closer to Mother. June closed the preview window. The microphone stayed live, she said, and your mother kept talking. The forensic review took place in a conference room at Camille's office 3 weeks later. By then, I had moved back into my apartment. Nora still drove me to physical therapy and stayed nearby when I used the stairs, but I no longer needed help with every ordinary task. I walked with a cane, rested often, and kept a folded cushion in the car because hard chairs made the muscles around my fusion tighten within minutes. The conference room chair had wheels. I asked Camille's assistant to replace it with one that could not move. No one asked why. June arrived carrying the original memory card inside an evidence bag. Her attorney came with her. A digital forensic examiner named Thomas Reed documented the seal, photographed the card, and copied the data onto 2 encrypted drives. He calculated a digital hash for the original file and each verified copy. Camille explained that the hash functioned like a fingerprint. If anyone altered even a small part of the file, the value would change. The technical process lasted longer than the listening. That was intentional. The recording mattered only if June could prove where it came from. Thomas could prove it had not been edited, and the original media remained protected. When Thomas finished, he placed the source card back inside a new sealed bag. We will work from the verified copy, he said. June opened a synchronized video from a secondary camera. The picture did not show every face clearly, but it established where the bouquet rested after Kendra removed her microphone. The flowers sat on the head table, less than 3 feet from where Mother stood. Thomas warned us that the audio would not sound like a private conversation recorded in a quiet room. There is music, crowd noise, and movement against the transmitter, he said. Some portions are clear, some are not. I will not fill in words that are not audible. That is exactly what I want, I said. Camille looked at me. You can stop at any point. I know. June played the section recorded several minutes before the chair was pulled. Voices overlapped beneath the music. Someone laughed near the microphone. Silverware struck a plate. Then Mother's voice emerged, lower than it had been during the reception. Arthur is going to talk to her, Kendra answered. About what? I do not know exactly. He refused to sign the letter. What do you want me to do? There was a brief burst of noise as someone touched the microphone. Mother's next sentence was partly obscured. Thomas played it again without adjusting the file. This time I caught the final words. Make sure Arthur sees her stand. Kendra gave a nervous laugh. She stands all the time. Then everyone should see how quickly she can do it when she is not expecting sympathy. The words were not a direct order to injure me. They were more revealing than that. Mother had wanted a performance. She had expected my body to produce evidence for her. Kendra lowered her voice. What if she actually gets hurt? Mother answered without hesitation. She always says she is hurt. I pressed my thumb against the handle of my cane. For years, Mother had described my pain as a habit rather than a condition. Kendra had learned the same language so thoroughly that the possibility of injuring me became a debate about whether my reaction would be credible. The recording continued. Kendra said, I will only move it a little. Mother replied, just enough that she has to catch herself. A waiter spoke nearby, and the conversation disappeared beneath the music. June advanced the file to the fall. The chair scraped. My body hit the floor. The laughter on the recording sounded louder than I remembered. Perhaps memory had softened it. Perhaps the microphone had been closer to the tables where people clapped. My own voice was faint, telling Kendra I could not feel my foot. Then Arthur shouted not to move me. The audio shifted when Kendra removed the transmitter. Fabric dragged across the microphone. Her breathing became loud, then muffled as she pushed it into the bouquet. The flowers were placed on the table. Mother's voice moved closer. What am I supposed to do now? Kendra asked. Do not apologize. She cannot stand. She is making sure everyone watches her. Mom, Arthur looks scared. If you apologize, she will use it against you. A chair moved near the bouquet. Someone asked whether the ambulance had been called. Kendra whispered, "This was your idea." Mother's response was clear. "I told you to slide it. You were the one who made a show of it." Kendra began crying. Mother did not comfort her. "Pull yourself together," she said. "The payment comes next month. She cannot start asking questions now." Camille paused the recording. No one spoke. The sentence connected the prank to the money more directly than anything we had found so far, but it also revealed the fault line between Mother and Kendra. Mother had designed the situation. Kendra had made it larger for the camera. Each was already preparing to blame the other. "Play the rest," I said. Thomas marked the timestamp before June continued. Mother's voice returned after several seconds of ballroom noise. "Finjun, what do I tell her?" Kendra asked. "That the family does not consent to footage of a medical emergency." I signed the contract. "Then tell her the bride wants it deleted. She will have backups. Tell Owen to handle it. No one needs to see what happened before Meredith went down." A male voice approached, and Mother stopped talking. The next clear section came several minutes later. Russell was speaking. "We need to leave this alone until Meredith is out of surgery." Mother answered, "We need to fix the account before she calls anyone else. She is going to notice now. She noticed because Arthur frightened her." "No, Diane. She noticed because Kendra put her on the floor." Mother's voice sharpened. "Do not start pretending you were not part of this." Russell did not deny it. The rest of their conversation dissolved beneath music and guests moving around the table. Thomas stopped the file at the end of the marked section. I had expected the recording to make me angrier. Instead, it made the structure clearer. Mother had wanted me discredited before Arthur could reach me. Kendra had accepted the plan because she wanted to humiliate me and protect the life built around my money. Russell had not designed the prank, but he knew enough about the financial scheme to understand immediately why it mattered. None of them had asked whether I was safe. They had asked how to protect the account. Camille requested a written forensic report limited to what the file could establish. Thomas would identify speakers only where video, context, or witness testimony supported the identification. He would not enhance uncertain words into certainty. June signed an additional statement describing how the microphone was attached, where it had been placed, and when her assistant recovered it. Before she left, she stopped near my chair. "I am sorry I did not realize what was happening sooner," she said. "You were hired to film a wedding." I still watched people laugh. So did a room full of people. She looked down. "You preserved the original," I said. "That matters." After June left, Camille asked whether I wanted to take a break. "I want to know what happens next." We add the audio to the civil discovery record. We also provide it to the bank's fraud investigator. Whether law enforcement opens a criminal case is not our decision. Does the recording prove fraud? It supports intent and motive. It does not replace the financial documents. I had learned not to ask one piece of evidence to carry the entire story. The accounting report arrived several days later. The earliest payments were complicated because Mother had moved money through multiple accounts. Some transactions were more than a decade old. Records were incomplete, and not every old transfer could become a criminal charge. The civil picture was clearer. Payments from my annuity had reduced the mortgage on my parents' house, covered Kendra's tuition, funded deposits for her company, and paid a large share of the wedding. Russell's signature appeared on several transfers. For one payment, he had signed both as joint account holder and as witness to Mother's use of the power of attorney. Camille warned me not to confuse a signature with authorship of the entire plan. "Your father may have participated without creating the system," she said. "That does not make him innocent." "No. Then why did he offer to take responsibility?" "Because taking responsibility for vague bookkeeping may be safer than admitting knowledge of deliberate misuse." Russell requested a private meeting through his attorney. Camille agreed only if counsel attended, and the discussion was documented. We met in her office 1 week after reviewing the audio. My father looked thinner than he had at the wedding. His gray suit hung loosely at the shoulders. He carried a folder but did not open it immediately. "I want to resolve this before it becomes something none of us can survive," he said. "It became that when you used my money," I replied. He flinched but continued. I signed some transfers. Your mother handled the records. I believed the funds could be used for household expenses connected to your care. Kendra's tuition was connected to my care. You both suffered. The ballroom? He looked at the table. That was a mistake. A mistake is paying the wrong invoice once. This happened for years. Russell opened the folder. Inside was a draft statement accepting responsibility for financial decisions made through the joint accounts. It described Mother as someone who prepared routine paperwork without understanding the source of the funds. The statement was careful. It admitted enough to explain his signatures. It denied intent. It protected Diane. Camille read 2 pages, then set it down. This says you made the decisions, she said. I signed them. It says Diane did not understand the accounts. She trusted me. I watched his face. At the wedding, Mother had commanded the room while he stayed behind her. In the documents, her login changed addresses and prepared account instructions. In the audio, she discussed the payment and told him they needed to fix the account. His statement contradicted evidence he did not know we possessed. Dad, I said, who asked Arthur to support a conservatorship? His eyes shifted toward Camille. I do not know. Who told Kendra the settlement belonged to the family? Your mother spoke to both of you about sacrifice. Who submitted the new destination account before the wedding? I did not. Who did? He closed the folder. I am trying to protect your mother from consequences she cannot handle. She handled taking the money. She believed she was keeping the family together. That is her explanation. I asked what you knew. Russell's expression changed. For the first time, the tired father disappeared, and the man who had signed the transfers remained. I knew the payments helped us, he said. I did not ask every question. You saw my name. Yes. You knew I did not know. He took too long to answer. Yes. The word was quiet, but it ended any remaining fantasy that my father had been merely careless. He had chosen not to know details because the money made his life easier. His attorney asked for a recess. Before leaving, Russell pushed the draft statement toward Camille. This is the only way to keep Diane out of prison. Camille did not touch it. That is not a decision you can make with a document that contradicts the evidence. Russell stood. At the door, he looked at me. Your mother will not survive being publicly humiliated. I adjusted my cane against the chair. She survived watching me lie on the floor. He left without answering. The bank's fraud unit contacted Camille the following week. The pending change to the destination account used a recently uploaded certification claiming the old power of attorney remained valid and that I had verbally approved the update. I had never given verbal approval. The certification contained a digital signature resembling mine. That moved the issue beyond disputed family spending. The bank prepared a referral package. Camille sent the audio, conservatorship documents, revocation notices, account records, and Russell's draft statement to the Financial Crimes Unit at the District Attorney's Office. A prosecutor did not call me immediately. An investigator did. He explained that the office would determine whether recent conduct supported charges. The old transactions would help establish pattern and motive, but the immediate focus was the attempted transfer, the certification, and any later destruction of evidence. He asked whether I had accessed my parents' devices or accounts. No. Did Miss Regis? No. All records came through administrators, the bank, civil discovery, or voluntary production. That answer mattered. Our case could not depend on evidence gathered through the same disregard for boundaries that Mother had used against me. Several weeks passed before the investigation produced anything new. During that time, my therapy increased. I walked farther, returned to work for limited hours, and learned how quickly progress could disappear after one bad night. The legal process moved with the same uneven rhythm. Some days brought hundreds of pages. Other weeks brought silence. Then Russell's attorney contacted Camille again. My father had preserved a voicemail from Mother. He wanted the prosecutor to know about it before deciding whether to charge him. The recording was from 2 days after my phone call from the hospital. Mother's voice sounded controlled. If this turns into an investigation, the company belongs to Kendra. The loan application is hers. The wedding contracts are hers. You signed routine transfers, and I followed your instructions. There was a pause. Then she added, no one can prove I ordered anything. Russell had not answered before the voicemail ended. The investigator asked why he had kept it. Russell said it frightened him. I suspected he had kept it as insurance. Either explanation showed the same thing. Even inside their marriage, trust had been replaced by evidence. The voicemail supported what the audio already suggested, but investigators still needed lawful access to Diane's devices before they could know whether she had created documents to shift responsibility. They obtained additional subpoenas for cloud records and account logs. Those records showed an unusual file name connected to Diane's personal storage. Kendra's statement final. The creation date was 3 weeks before the wedding. The file itself had not yet been recovered. Investigators needed stronger probable cause before seeking access to the device that created it. Camille read the file name aloud to me. Kendra's statement about what? I asked. We do not know yet. Why would my mother prepare a statement in Kendra's name before the wedding? Camille closed the report. Because she expected someone might need to take the blame. I looked at the date again. Mother had not built one escape route. She had built it through Kendra. The warrant was executed in September, nearly 6 months after the wedding. Investigators did not arrive at my parents' house with television cameras or drag anyone across the lawn. They presented the warrant, collected Diane's laptop and phone, documented the devices, and left. Mother told the family that I had sent police to terrorize her. I learned about the search from the prosecutor's victim liaison 2 days later. Camille reminded me that the warrant did not mean charges were guaranteed. Investigators still had to determine which files belonged to Mother, whether they had been altered, and whether the information connected to recent criminal conduct. The analysis took weeks. By then, I had returned to work 4 hours a day. I used a cane in the office and kept a cushion on my chair. My left foot still dragged slightly when I became tired, so I scheduled physical therapy after work rather than before it. Waiting for investigators was harder than therapy. During rehabilitation, effort usually produced some result. I completed an exercise, increased the distance I walked, or learned what my body could not yet tolerate. The legal process offered no such rhythm. Evidence existed or it did not. Someone reviewed it while I went to meetings, answered emails, and tried not to check my phone every 10 minutes. Camille called one afternoon while I was reviewing a patient safety report. They recovered the Kendra file, she said. I closed my office door. What was it? Not an affidavit. It was an unsworn declaration your mother drafted herself. The distinction mattered. Mother had not signed it before a notary or filed it in court. She had created a document written in Kendra's voice. The earliest version had been saved 3 weeks before the wedding. It stated that Kendra independently managed all money transferred into her company, that she alone selected the accounts used as proof of funds, and that Diane had no knowledge of where the money originated. A second section said Kendra had planned a prank involving Meredith without consulting anyone else. What prank? I asked. The document does not mention the chair in the earliest version. It says Kendra intended to stage an incident showing that you exaggerated your disability. Mother had written Kendra's explanation before Kendra pulled the chair. The later versions were worse. After the civil subpoenas arrived, Mother edited the document to include the chair, the wedding video, and Kendra's request to have the footage deleted. She changed the document date so it appeared to have been written after the wedding but before the investigation. The metadata preserved both creation dates. She tried to backdate it, I asked. Yes. Did Kendra ever sign it? No. Investigators have not found a signed version. Then why does it matter? It shows preparation. Your mother anticipated that control of the settlement and a public incident involving you could be investigated. After she received subpoenas, she modified the file to fit what had happened. Mother had always taught us that preparation was proof of virtue. She kept spare keys, emergency cash, medical records, and duplicate copies of every important paper. This was preparation stripped of its respectable appearance. Before the wedding, she had designed a path that ended with Kendra carrying the blame. After the wedding, she adjusted the path to match the damage. The prosecutor could not show Kendra the entire forensic report because the investigation remained active. Her lawyer was given enough information to understand that a document existed in her name and that its earliest version had been created before the wedding. Kendra requested a meeting. This time, her criminal defense attorney attended along with the lawyer handling the civil case. Camille sat beside me, and an investigator observed from the other end of the conference table. Kendra entered without makeup. Her hair was pulled into a loose knot, and her wedding ring was gone. She looked at the investigator first. Did my mother write that I stole the money? She asked. Her attorney touched her arm. Let me handle the questions. I want to hear it from them. The investigator placed a redacted copy of the declaration on the table. Several paragraphs were blacked out, but the language blaming Kendra remained visible. She read the first page quickly. On the second page, her breathing changed. That is not how I write, she said. No one is claiming you wrote it. The investigator replied. She says I chose the accounts. Kendra turned another page. She told me which account to use. She sent me the statement. The investigator said nothing. Kendra reached the section about the prank. She planned it. Camille spoke for the first time. You suggested making it larger for the camera. Kendra looked at me. That was after she told me what you were trying to do. What did she say I was trying to do? She said you planned to corner Arthur at the wedding, accuse her of stealing, and make a scene in front of everyone. I did not know Arthur wanted to talk to me. I know that now. You also knew the money carried my name. Kendra closed the document. I knew your name was on one statement. Mom said you had given her authority. You asked whether I could demand it back. She said no. You chose not to ask me. Her eyes filled, but her voice remained steady. I believed her. For as long as believing her protected the company. Kendra looked toward her lawyers. I will give you my phone, she said. I will give you every email and every message, but I want an agreement. The investigator's expression did not change. Her criminal attorney interrupted. My client is willing to discuss cooperation under appropriate protections. Kendra looked directly at me. If I help prove Mom did this, I need you to stop trying to take the company. The company was funded with money taken from me. It supports people. So does my job. That does not give me permission to steal from a patient. You know what will happen if the company closes. I know what happened when it stayed open. She leaned forward. Tell Owen I did not know everything. Tell him she manipulated me. Release enough money to keep the business operating, and I will give them everything. I heard the structure beneath her offer. Truth in exchange for rescue. Cooperation in exchange for forgiveness. Mother had taught both of us to treat honesty as something negotiated after the benefits were secured. Tell the truth because it is true, I said. Not because you think it purchases forgiveness. Kendra's face hardened. You want to punish me. I want the evidence preserved and the money accounted for. What happens after that depends on what you did, not on whether I feel sorry for you. You already have what you wanted. I have a damaged spine and a court account holding money that was mine before anyone touched it. Her attorney asked for a private break. The meeting resumed 20 minutes later. Kendra agreed to provide her phone and company email through counsel. She signed a consent form defining what investigators could examine. Her lawyers requested that the prosecutor consider her cooperation when evaluating charges. No one promised probation, immunity, or a saved business. The phone confirmed that Mother had manipulated her. It also confirmed that Kendra had made choices of her own. 3 days before the wedding, Mother texted that Arthur might approach me and that the family needed everyone to see how easily I could move when surprised. Kendra replied, A small pull will not show on camera. Mother answered, It only needs to make her react. Kendra wrote, I can make it bigger without making her fall hard. Mother responded with a thumbs up. After the fall, Kendra texted June asking whether the raw footage could be deleted because it showed a private medical emergency. June replied that she could not destroy contracted footage while an injury claim might exist. Kendra forwarded the response to Mother. Mother wrote, Get Owen to pressure her. We cannot let Meredith control the story. There were messages about the money as well. 6 months before the wedding, Kendra had asked whether the transfer could expose her company. Mother told her the power of attorney made everything legal. Kendra replied, I do not want Meredith showing up later and claiming I stole from her. Mother answered, She will not know unless someone tells her. Kendra did not ask Mother to return the money. She signed the loan package the next morning. The investigators also found that Kendra deleted a cloud folder after the civil preservation notice but before the criminal subpoena. That deletion might support civil sanctions, but the prosecutor focused more closely on the messages she sent after the criminal subpoena was served. Mother told her to erase their wedding week conversation. Kendra replied, I already deleted the thread from my phone. Mother wrote, Delete it from the backup too. Kendra attempted to remove the cloud copy, but the provider retained logs and recoverable data. Her cooperation did not turn her into an innocent witness. It made her a witness whose testimony could be checked against her own misconduct. Owen learned about the recovered messages through the financial disclosures connected to the civil case and from Kendra herself. He requested a meeting with Camille, but she told him to speak through his own attorney. He did not need me to explain his marriage to him. In February, he filed for divorce. There was no child custody dispute because they had no children. There was no instant order removing Kendra from the house or cutting her off from every account. Owen's attorney advised him to direct future salary into an individual account and request temporary financial orders governing joint expenses. The court required both spouses to disclose accounts, company liabilities, disputed funds, and property purchased during the marriage. Kendra posted nothing about the filing. For the first time since the wedding, her public page went silent. She called me once from an unfamiliar number. I answered because I assumed it might be medical or legal. "Owen left," she said. I rested the phone against my ear. "I heard he filed. He says he does not know who I am. What do you want me to say? That mom made me believe all of it. She influenced you. She raised me. She raised me too. You got away." The sentence stopped me. I had moved out, built a career, and kept mother away from my accounts. Kendra had remained close enough to receive the rewards of obedience. She had believed that meant she was loved more. Now she was learning that proximity to mother had never meant safety. "You had chances to ask me," I said. "I thought you would take everything." "Because that is what she told you." "Yes. You still pulled the chair." Her voice broke. "I did not think you would get hurt. You asked what would happen if I did. I thought she knew your medical history. She knew enough to know there was a risk. She decided the risk did not matter. And I listened." "Yes." Kendra became quiet. "Are you ever going to forgive me?" "I do not know. You could at least say maybe." "I am not going to give you an answer because you are frightened of the consequences." She ended the call without saying goodbye. By autumn, the Financial Crimes Unit had completed enough of its investigation to present charges involving the attempted transfer of the final annuity payment, the false certification, the backdated declaration, and destruction of evidence after formal subpoenas. The older transfers remained important to the civil accounting and showed a pattern, but prosecutors did not pretend every transaction from 2 decades earlier could become a new criminal count. Russell negotiated first. He admitted signing transfers, benefiting from the money, and failing to challenge the use of the power of attorney. In exchange for cooperation, restitution, and testimony, prosecutors offered a resolution that did not require a long prison sentence. Kendra's attorneys negotiated separately. Her proposed agreement required her to admit making false statements, attempting to delete responsive data, and knowingly using proof of funds carrying my name. She would face probation, restitution, and the loss of any claim that the company assets were entirely legitimate. She did not like the agreement. She signed it because the alternative exposed her to greater risk. Mother refused every offer. Her attorney proposed a plea that included a reduced sentence if she admitted creating the false certification, attempting to redirect the payment, and altering the Kendra declaration after subpoenas. Mother rejected it. She said Russell had handled the accounts, Kendra had controlled the company, and I had manipulated both of them after inventing a dispute over money I had knowingly shared. Her attorney warned that the audio, metadata, bank instructions, and voicemail could be admitted at trial. Mother believed the jury would see a devoted parent who had managed an injured child's money for the good of the family. She believed my anger would make me look unstable. She believed Kendra's cooperation would look like betrayal, and Russell's testimony would look like cowardice. Most of all, she believed she could still control the meaning of every document once she stood in a room and explained it. In October, her attorney sent formal notice to the prosecutor. "My client rejects the offer. She wants a jury to hear what kind of daughter Meredith Ellison really is." My deposition began on a gray Monday morning in a downtown conference room that smelled faintly of coffee and printer toner. Camille sat beside me. A court reporter arranged her equipment at the end of the table. Across from us, Mother's civil attorney opened a thick binder filled with copies of my medical records, text messages, work emails, and social media posts. He began with my name, address, occupation, and medication list. Then he asked whether I hated my mother. "No," I said. Camille did not move, but I felt her attention sharpen. The attorney leaned forward. "You are suing her." accusing her of stealing from you, and cooperating with a criminal prosecution. Yet you do not hate her? I do not need to hate someone to stop them from controlling my money. He changed direction. He asked about the pain medication I had taken after surgery, how long I had used a walker, and whether I had ever become confused while medicated. I was tired. I was nauseated. I was not unable to understand my decisions. Did you make any poor decisions? Yes. Camille had prepared me for that question. She had also told me not to perform perfection. What poor decisions? I called my father before speaking to counsel. That gave my parents warning that I had found the venue payment. Would a person with good judgment do that? A person with good judgment can still make an emotional mistake. He looked at the court reporter before returning to me. You were angry. Yes. You were humiliated. Yes. You wanted revenge. I wanted an accounting. That was not my question. I wanted my mother to lose the authority she had misused. I wanted the money preserved. I wanted the records examined. I did not want to fabricate evidence or take assets that did not belong to me. He opened another section of the binder. He read a text I had sent Nora 2 years earlier after a Christmas dinner. I never want to sit at that table again. Does that sound like a woman seeking reconciliation with her family? He asked. It sounds like a woman who had a bad Christmas dinner. Why did you attend Kendra's wedding if you felt that way? Kendra asked me to come. She said she wanted to repair our relationship. You wanted to believe her? Yes. You wanted your family's approval. No. He paused. You expect the jury to believe you attended your sister's wedding without wanting your family's approval? I wanted the possibility that my sister meant what she said. That is not the same as needing my mother's permission to exist. The attorney looked down at his notes. He questioned me for more than 5 hours. He asked why I had not reviewed the settlement documents earlier. I admitted I had avoided them. He asked whether I knew Mother had paid for my treatment. I said I knew she had handled bills, but the accounting later showed insurance and the medical trust covered more than she claimed. He asked whether I had ever thanked her. I said yes. He asked whether gratitude created a legal right to my annuity. I told him that was a question for the court. By the end, my back felt locked in place. I had shifted between sitting and standing every 20 minutes. But the muscles around the fusion still burned. The attorney closed his binder. You seem very composed today, he said. I prepared. Is that how you normally present yourself? When I know someone is trying to use my reaction against me. Camille touched the edge of my legal pad with one finger. A quiet signal not to add anything else. The deposition ended. In the elevator, I leaned against the wall. You did well, Camille said. I gave him every flaw he asked for. You gave him facts he would have found anyway. He will use them. He would use denial more effectively. That evening, I reviewed the transcript in my head until Nora took my phone away from me. You cannot revise testimony after giving it, she said. I know. Then stop arguing with imaginary lawyers. They are not imaginary. The one in your kitchen is. I almost laughed. By then, I had returned to work 4 days a week, 5 hours a day. My employer adjusted my schedule and moved several meetings online. I still needed a cane outside the apartment, and long car rides left my left foot numb. Progress came slowly enough that other people sometimes failed to see it. I noticed it in small things. I could stand long enough to make breakfast. I could walk from the parking garage to my office without stopping. I could sit through a 40-minute meeting if I changed position halfway through. None of those things restored the body I had before the wedding. They gave me back choices. The criminal prosecutor met with me 2 weeks after the deposition. Her name was Elena Ward, and she spoke with the careful precision of someone who expected every sentence to be repeated in court. Camille attended as my attorney, but Elena led the preparation. This trial is not the civil case, she said. The jury will not decide every old transfer or how much compensation you deserve for your injury. What will they decide? Whether the evidence proves the recent attempted transfer, false documents, forgery, evidence tampering, and obstruction beyond a reasonable doubt. What about the money she used years ago? Some of it may be admitted to explain the relationship, pattern, and motive. The judge may limit it. We are not charging every old transaction as a separate crime. I appreciated the boundary. My family had taken years from me through a system of small acts. A jury still had to judge specific conduct, not punish Mother for everything I wished she had been. Elena prepared me for direct examination. She asked how I learned about the annuity, what I authorized, and what I did after discovering the pending account change. She stopped me whenever I guessed at Mother's thoughts. You cannot testify that she wanted to control you unless you connect that conclusion to something she said or did. She filed for conservatorship. Good. Describe the filing. She told Kendra to make Arthur see me stand. Good. Say what the recording captured. She believed the money belonged to the family. What supports that? The phone call from the hospital, her messages to Kendra, and her testimony in the civil case. That was how the story had to be told. Not as a daughter explaining who her mother really was. As a witness explaining what the evidence showed. Arthur's preparation was more difficult. Elena met with him separately first. Later, Camille arranged a brief conversation because Arthur had asked whether I would permit it. We met in his office after closing hours. The waiting room lights were dim, and no staff remained except his office manager. Arthur looked tired. I reviewed every access log, he said. Your mother's old portal proxy should have been removed years ago. Why wasn't it? The practice changed software twice. The authorization expired, but the contact information migrated. She could no longer legally receive protected information. But staff still treated her as the familiar family contact. She used that gap. Yes. You let the gap stay open. Yes. There was no defense in his tone. He explained that after Diane sent the conservatorship letter, he should have alerted the clinic's privacy officer and risk management team immediately. Instead, he treated it as an inappropriate family request and told her he would not sign. He had believed refusal was enough. It was not. Why did you invite her to send documents through the portal? I asked. I did not invite her. She used the proxy access and old contact channel. Did you report that? Not until after the wedding. I looked at the framed medical certificates on his wall. You knew she had spoken for me too long. I knew she was over-involved. That is a gentle word. It was the word I used to avoid confronting what I saw. Arthur folded his hands. I am not asking you to forgive me. I am asking whether you object to me telling the full truth at trial, including my own failure. I would object if you did not. He nodded. Before I left, he said something I had not expected. Your mother told me you would be furious if I contacted you directly. Did you believe her? I believed you preferred distance from your family. That was true. I allowed her to turn distance into permission. I did not comfort him. Accountability did not require cruelty, but it also did not require me to ease the shame of someone who had finally recognized his part. The admissibility hearing began in late October. Mother's defense tried to exclude the audio first. Her attorney argued that Kendra did not expect the microphone to continue recording after she removed it from her dress. He also argued that private conversations near the head table should not have been captured. June testified about the contract, the verbal microphone warning, and the transmitter design. She explained that Kendra had agreed to continuous recording until a crew member physically removed or powered down the device. The defense asked whether Kendra had consented to being recorded while speaking privately with her mother. June answered carefully. She consented to wearing a live transmitter through the reception events. She removed it herself, but did not return it to the crew. It remained inside the agreed recording period. The prosecutor added that Texas law permitted recording when one party consented, and Kendra's signed agreement and verbal acknowledgement established that consent. The judge did not rule immediately. The defense challenged the sound quality and claimed the phrases could be misheard. Thomas Reed explained the original media, the hash values, the verified copy, and the limits of the recording. He did not claim every word was clear. He identified the sections that could be understood without enhancement and the portions that remained unintelligible. That honesty strengthened him. The defense challenged the file recovered from Mother's cloud storage next. Her attorney argued that it might be privileged work prepared for legal advice. The prosecutor established that the earliest version had been created on Mother's personal account 3 weeks before the wedding, before she retained criminal counsel. No attorney had authored or received that version. The later version had been edited after formal subpoenas were served. The defense called it a personal draft. The prosecutor called it evidence of intent and later alteration. The judge asked why the original document described Kendra taking sole responsibility for a public incident that had not yet occurred. Mother's attorney said the document referred to a hypothetical conflict. The judge looked unconvinced. The old financial transfers created another dispute. The prosecutor wanted enough history to explain why Mother cared about the April payment and why she sought conservatorship. The defense argued that presenting 20 years of transactions would invite the jury to punish Mother for uncharged conduct. The judge limited the evidence. The jury could hear a simplified history showing that prior annuity payments entered accounts controlled through the power of attorney and benefited the family. They could hear about the money traced to Kendra's company and wedding. They would be instructed that not every old transfer was a criminal charge. The recent attempted account change, false certification, conservatorship material, audio, voicemail, Kendra's email, cloud file, and deletion after subpoenas could all be presented if the prosecution established the proper foundation at trial. The ruling did not guarantee conviction. It meant the jury would be allowed to hear the evidence Mother had spent months calling irrelevant, private, misunderstood, or fabricated. Kendra was also preparing to testify. She requested one final meeting with me before trial. Camille advised against a private conversation, so we spoke in a conference room with both attorneys present. Kendra kept her hands folded in her lap. The prosecutor says the defense will accuse me of lying to reduce my sentence. They will. I need you to tell them Mom made me do it. She influenced you. That is not strong enough. It is accurate. She planned the prank. She planned to use me as a target. You chose how far to pull the chair. Kendra swallowed. I did not know you would break your back. You asked what would happen if I was really hurt. She told me you always exaggerated. You chose to believe the answer that protected what you wanted. Her eyes filled. Do you want me to be destroyed? No. Then why cannot you say she is the reason? Because she is not the only reason. Kendra looked toward her lawyer. I understood what she wanted. She wanted a clean division between manipulator and victim. Mother had denied both of us that simplicity. Kendra had been conditioned, rewarded, frightened, and used. She had also acted. Both things could be true. When you testify, I said, tell them exactly what she told you. Then tell them exactly what you did. And after? I do not know. You still will not say maybe. I will not make forgiveness another agreement signed before the truth is complete. Kendra left without trying to hug me. On the morning trial began, I arrived early. The courthouse hallway was colder than the street. Camille walked beside me while Nora waited near the elevators. Elena stood with her trial team outside the courtroom doors, reviewing witness order. Mother sat at the far end of the hall with her attorneys. She wore navy blue and pearls. Her hair was perfectly arranged. From a distance, she looked like the same woman who had once entered every medical appointment carrying a folder and the certainty that she belonged at the center of it. She saw my cane. Her gaze moved from it to my face. I could almost hear the argument she intended to make. Too injured when it helped me. Too capable when it helped her. Camille noticed where I was looking. Do not try the case in the hallway, she said. I am not. You are rehearsing answers. That is different. No, it is quieter. The courtroom clerk opened the doors. For years, Mother had decided what relatives heard, what doctors recorded, what papers I saw, and what money I believed remained. Now the room had rules she did not control. Camille touched my elbow lightly, waiting until I nodded before helping me forward. For the first time, she said, your mother does not get to decide which version of you the room hears. Elena Ward began by telling the jury that the case was not about whether my mother had once cared for me. It is about what she believed that care entitled her to do, she said. She did not open with the wedding video or my surgery. She opened with the final annuity payment due in April, and the request submitted 3 days before Kendra pulled my chair. The request directed $420,000 away from the account associated with my name. It relied on a power of attorney I was entitled to revoke and included a certification claiming I had verbally approved the change. I had never approved it. Elena told the jury they would see how that attempted transfer connected to a temporary conservatorship plan, a staged humiliation at a wedding, a backdated declaration, and deleted records. Mother's attorney rose after her. He described Diane as a woman who had spent more than 20 years handling difficult medical and financial responsibilities for an injured daughter. He said our family had always treated the settlement as a shared resource, and that I only objected after a painful accident made me angry and vulnerable to outside influence. He called the financial records complicated. He called the audio incomplete. He called Kendra and Russell frightened people willing to blame Diane to protect themselves. Then he looked directly at the jury. This case is what happens when family sacrifice is reinterpreted as theft. Mother sat between her attorneys with her hands folded. She did not look at me. Arthur was the first witness who made the wedding real inside the courtroom. He explained my old fusion, the degeneration above it, and the danger created when I struck the floor. He described the weakness in my left leg and the reason he stopped guests from lifting me. "Could you diagnose the fracture in the ballroom?" Elena asked. "No." "Then why did you order everyone not to move her?" "Because spinal trauma, combined with weakness and altered sensation, can worsen if the patient is moved improperly. The emergency records and imaging were admitted after that." The jury saw the compression, fracture, instability, and extension of my fusion. My mother's attorney tried to make Arthur's mistakes discredit everything else. "You allowed Diane Ellison to remain listed as a family contact for years, correct?" "Yes." "You failed to remove old portal access." "Yes." "You did not report her conservatorship request to risk management until after the wedding." "That is correct." "So your own office failed to follow proper boundaries." Arthur looked toward the jury. "Yes." "My failure gave Mrs. Ellison access she should not have had." "It did not make the information she submitted true." The attorney asked whether Mother had ever directly said she wanted to steal my money. "No." "Did she say she wanted Meredith harmed?" "No." "Then your testimony is based on assumptions." "My testimony is that she asked me to support a statement that Meredith could not manage her finances, though I had never reached that medical conclusion." Arthur did not become defensive. Every mistake he admitted made it harder for the defense to portray his remaining testimony as self-protection. June testified next. She explained the microphone contract, Kendra's verbal acknowledgement, and the independent recorder. Thomas Reed then explained how he copied the original media, calculated the hash values, and confirmed the file had not been altered. The defense spent almost an hour questioning background noise, missing words, and whether the bouquet had muffled the transmitter. Thomas agreed that portions were unintelligible. He also identified the sections that were clear. The courtroom speakers carried the sound of silverware, wedding music, and distant laughter. Then Mother's voice came through. "Arthur is going to talk to her." Kendra asked what she should do. "Make sure Arthur sees her stand." The jury heard Kendra ask, "What would happen if I was actually hurt?" Mother answered, "She always says she is hurt." I kept my eyes on the wooden edge of the witness stand. The recording had been difficult to hear in Camille's office. Hearing it in a courtroom filled with strangers felt different. Every word was no longer part of a private family argument. It was evidence. The chair scraped through the speakers. The impact followed. Several jurors shifted when my voice said I could not feel my foot. Mother's attorney objected to the prosecutor playing too much of the aftermath. The judge allowed the relevant sections. The audio moved to the bouquet. Kendra's voice trembled. "What am I supposed to do now?" "Do not apologize," Mother answered. "She cannot stand. She is making sure everyone watches her." Then came the sentence Elena had built the presentation around. "The payment comes next month." She cannot start asking questions now. Mother's face remained still. The recording continued long enough for the jury to hear her tell Kendra to request deletion of the footage, and tell Russell they needed to fix the account before I contacted anyone. June stepped down without looking at our family. The financial evidence came next. The forensic accountant did not display 20 years of transactions at once. She used a simple timeline. A payment entered an account connected to my annuity. The address for the account changed to my parents' home. Money moved toward their mortgage, Kendra's tuition, and later her company. The accountant then focused on the recent conduct. 6 months before the wedding, $60,000 moved into Kendra's business account. 48,000 of the wedding costs were traced through that money. 3 days before the wedding, someone submitted new destination instructions for the final annuity payment. After I objected, a second certification appeared, claiming I had given verbal approval. The certification carried a digital version of my signature. I had not signed it. Mother's attorney emphasized that Russell's name appeared on several accounts and transfers. That brought my father to the witness stand. Russell admitted signing documents and benefiting from the money. He admitted seeing my name on account records. He said Mother handled most correspondence and told him the power of attorney allowed family expenses. Did you ever ask Meredith whether she agreed? Elena asked. No. Why not? I did not want another conflict. Did the money help you keep your house? Yes. Did that make it easier not to ask questions? Russell stared at his hands. Yes. The defense tried to make him the primary decision-maker. Russell admitted he had once offered to accept responsibility through a written statement. Then Elena showed him the voicemail he had preserved. Mother's recorded voice filled the courtroom again. If this turns into an investigation, the company belongs to Kendra. The loan application is hers. You signed routine transfers, and I followed your instructions. Then came her final line. No one can prove I ordered anything. Why did you save that voicemail? Elena asked. Because I realized she was preparing to blame both of us. Mother turned toward him for the first time. The expression on her face was not grief. It was disbelief that he had kept something she could not control. Kendra testified the following morning. She admitted seeing my name on the proof of funds document 6 months before the wedding. She admitted asking Mother whether I could demand the money back. She admitted signing the loan paperwork after Mother told her I would never know. Then Elena asked about the chair. My mother wanted people to see Meredith stand quickly, Kendra said. She said Arthur was trying to interfere with the account. Did Diane tell you to pull the chair completely away? No, she said to slide it. Why did you pull it farther? I wanted the camera to catch it. Did you understand Meredith might fall? I knew she might fall. I did not think she would be seriously injured. Elena displayed Kendra's text. A small pull will not show on camera. Then Mother's reply. It only needs to make her react. Kendra's next message appeared beneath it. I can make it bigger without making her fall hard. My sister closed her eyes. The defense attorney approached her carefully. You are testifying under an agreement that may keep you out of prison, correct? Yes. You blame your mother because blaming her reduces your punishment. I am telling the truth because the files already show what I did. You deleted messages. Yes. You lied to your husband. Yes. You lied to Meredith. Yes. How can the jury trust anything you say? Kendra looked at Mother. They should not trust me without the records. It was the most honest answer she gave. The investigator presented the file recovered from Mother's cloud account. The earliest version had been created 3 weeks before the wedding. It claimed Kendra alone controlled the company's financial documents and had planned an incident designed to expose my exaggerated disability. The investigator then showed the later version. It had been edited after formal subpoenas were served. The date had been changed, and new sections described the chair, the wedding footage, and Kendra's request to delete it. The file history preserved every change. Mother's attorney called it a personal planning document. Elena asked why a planning document created before the wedding assigned responsibility for an event that had not yet happened. The investigator answered, "That is a question for the person who created it." Mother did not have to testify. Her attorneys advised against it. She chose to take the stand anyway. I understood why before she answered the first question. She believed no document could compete with her ability to explain what everyone else had misunderstood. Her attorney guided her through the family history. Mother described hospital nights, missed work, unpaid bills, Kendra's neglected childhood, and Russell's exhaustion. She cried when she spoke about seeing me in pain at 17. She said the settlement had never felt like my money alone because the accident had affected everyone. I made decisions to keep the family functioning, she said. Meredith benefited from a stable home. Her attorney asked about the final payment. I believed the power of attorney remained valid. Did you forge Meredith's signature? No. Did you order Kendra to injure her? Absolutely not. Why did you create the declaration? Because Kendra's business records were disorganized. I wanted everyone's responsibilities documented in case there was ever a dispute. Under Elena's questioning, the explanation began to collapse. You created the first version 3 weeks before the wedding? Yes. Before Kendra pulled the chair? Yes. Why did it mention an incident intended to expose Meredith's disability? Kendra had discussed doing something playful. You knew before the wedding that the incident might lead to a financial dispute? I knew Meredith could overreact. You also knew Dr. Bennett had refused to support conservatorship. I knew he did not understand the family history. You knew the final payment was due the following month. Yes. You told Kendra not to apologize after Meredith could not stand. I was protecting my daughter from admitting legal liability during a confusing emergency. You told Russell to fix the account while Meredith was being transported. I was trying to prevent financial chaos. You altered the declaration after subpoenas were served. I corrected it to reflect what happened. You changed the date. I organized the file. Elena placed the two versions side by side. You prepared to blame Kendra before the wedding, then changed the document to make that blame look contemporaneous after the investigation began. Mother's composure broke. I prepared because I knew what Meredith was capable of doing to this family. The courtroom went silent. Elena waited. What was she capable of doing? Taking everything after we gave her everything. The money was issued in Meredith's name. I raised her. That was not my question. I kept her alive. I kept that family together while everyone else got to criticize how I did it. Mother turned toward the jury. Meredith would have had nothing without me. Kendra would have had nothing. Russell would have lost the house. I made decisions because someone had to. Elena did not raise her voice. And when Meredith became an adult, did you believe she had the right to make those decisions herself? Mother looked at me. She did not understand what the rest of us had paid. That answer ended the cross-examination more effectively than any confession could have. The jury deliberated for the rest of the afternoon and returned the following morning. I sat between Camille and the victim liaison while the clerk read the verdicts. Guilty on attempted fraud involving the final annuity payment. Guilty on use of a fraudulent financial certification. Guilty on evidence tampering connected to the backdated declaration. Guilty on obstruction related to deletion and alteration after subpoenas. The jury was not asked to punish Mother for every dollar taken over 2 decades. The verdict concerned the recent acts the prosecution had proved. Mother remained still until the judge ordered her taken into custody pending sentencing. As the deputy approached, she turned toward me. For one moment, I expected anger. Instead, she looked almost certain. "When this is over," she whispered, "you will still open the door for your mother." Sentencing took place 5 weeks after the verdict. By then, winter had settled over Dallas in the pale, dry way it sometimes does, without snow but with cold wind funneling between the courthouse buildings. I arrived early because sitting in traffic made my back tighten and I needed time to walk from the parking garage with my cane. Mother entered wearing the same navy suit she had worn during trial. Her hair was neat, her posture straight, and she looked less like a convicted defendant than a woman attending a meeting she still expected to control. She did not look at Russell. She did not look at Kendra. She watched me. The prosecutor had asked whether I wanted to give a victim impact statement. I wrote 6 versions before choosing the shortest one. When my name was called, I walked to the lectern and adjusted the microphone. I could feel Mother waiting for anger. She understood anger because she knew how to call it instability. She understood tears because she knew how to turn them into proof that I still needed her. I gave her neither. For years, Diane Ellison told me the settlement was gone, I said. She made me believe my treatment had nearly destroyed the family financially. Whenever I questioned her decisions, she reminded me what everyone had sacrificed because I was injured. I rested one hand on the lectern. She did not spend my money because I was incapable of managing it. She kept me believing I had nothing, so I would never ask where it went. Mother's face did not change. The financial loss matters. The surgery matters. The years of deception matter. But the most damaging part was the system she built around those things. She made dependence sound like love, control sound like care, and silence sound like gratitude. I did not ask the judge to punish her for every bad memory of my childhood. I asked for restitution, enforceable restrictions on her ability to manage anyone else's finances, and recognition that her conduct had continued after I became an adult capable of making my own decisions. Then I returned to my seat. Mother spoke after me. She said she regretted that the family had become divided. She said every choice she made had been intended to keep us stable. She described herself as a mother who had carried responsibilities no one else understood. She never said she was sorry for forging my approval. She never apologized for using Kendra. She never acknowledged telling people I was pretending while I lay on the ballroom floor. The judge sentenced her to 3 years in state custody, followed by supervision that prohibited her from serving as anyone's financial agent, trustee, guardian, or fiduciary without court approval. He ordered restitution, though everyone understood an order did not make money appear. Mother's attorney requested that she remain free while appealing. The judge denied it. As deputies led her away, she turned once toward Russell. He looked down. The criminal sentence was only one part of the consequences. The civil case continued for months. Camille had warned me that a judgment was not a machine that instantly converted property into repayment. The house still had a mortgage. Russell owned part of it. The bank had priority over certain claims. Every asset had to be traced, valued, and handled through the proper process. A lien was placed against Mother's interest in the house, and several accounts connected to the disputed transfers. Russell agreed to sell, rather than continue paying legal fees on a property neither of them could afford alone. The sale did not happen the week after sentencing. It took almost 6 months. After the mortgage, closing costs, and Russell's legal share were addressed, part of the remaining proceeds went toward restitution and the civil settlement. We did not recover every dollar. Some records were too old. Some money had been spent beyond recovery. Some business assets had depreciated until their resale value was a fraction of the purchase price. Camille told me not to measure justice by whether every number returned to its original column. We recovered control, she said. We recovered enough evidence to make the history official. That matters too. Mother lost her position on the board of a local charity after investigators showed that several donations had come from funds traced to my annuity. The charity returned the identifiable money through the restitution process and removed her from leadership. They did not replace her name with mine. I did not want a plaque bought with stolen money. Russell accepted a plea that kept him out of prison but did not keep him free from consequences. He admitted signing transfers, benefiting from the funds, and failing to challenge Mother's use of the power of attorney. He received probation, financial monitoring, and restitution obligations. He moved into a small apartment near his brother. The first time he asked to see me, he said he had finally left Mother. I told him leaving after the house, reputation, and money were gone did not erase the years he had stayed because silence was comfortable. I testified, he said. You testified after saving a voicemail as insurance against your wife. I was afraid of her. So was I. He lowered his eyes. I did not cut him off forever that day, but I stopped allowing him to describe cowardice as innocence. Kendra's outcome was separate. Her cooperation reduced the criminal exposure she faced, but it did not erase the texts, the deleted data, or the proof of funds document she had submitted. She received probation, restitution obligations, and civil responsibility for part of my medical losses. The company could not survive once the disputed capital was removed, and vendors learned its financial foundation was under investigation. It closed before the end of the year. Kendra blamed Mother at first. Then she blamed me. Eventually, through her attorney, she submitted a statement accepting that the company had depended on funds she knew carried my name. Owen completed the divorce in November of the following year. They had no children, so there was no custody fight. The court divided legitimate marital assets and allocated debt after financial disclosure. Owen did not walk away untouched. Some joint savings had been consumed by legal fees and company obligations. The wedding photographs remained in boxes. Neither of them wanted. Kendra sent me a letter after the divorce. It did not ask me to withdraw anything or speak to Owen. It did not blame Mother in every paragraph. She wrote that she had spent most of her life believing love was something our mother distributed according to obedience. She admitted that being chosen had felt so good she stopped asking who was paying for it. At the end, she wrote, I am sorry I pulled the chair. I am more sorry that when you could not stand, I decided protecting myself mattered more than helping you. I read the letter twice. I did not answer immediately. An accurate apology deserved acknowledgement. It did not automatically deserve access. The final annuity payment remained in court-controlled escrow until the civil dispute was resolved. Afterward, I transferred it into an account managed according to instructions I chose, with an independent fiduciary designated only as a backup if I ever became unable to manage it myself. No member of my family had authority over it. I used part of the money to pay rehabilitation costs, modify the entrance to my apartment, replace my car with one that was easier on my back, and create a long-term medical reserve. I did not buy a mansion. I did not quit my job and announce that money had set me free. Money had been used against me for too long to become the measure of my ending. I returned to work gradually. 4 hours became 6. 6 became a full day with breaks. I learned to stop apologizing when I needed to stand during meetings or use my cane in front of people who had known me before the wedding. Some days, the numbness in my foot barely registered. Other days, cold weather or a long drive brought it back. My body did not become the version it had been before Kendra moved the chair. What changed was that no one else was allowed to define what the pain meant. Mother wrote from prison. Her first letters accused Russell and Kendra of betraying her. Later letters described loneliness, poor sleep, and health problems. She said a daughter should not let her mother grow old among strangers. I sent the letters to Camille without answering. When Mother was released on parole after serving about 18 months, she had no house to return to and no family member willing to resume the old arrangement. Russell refused to let her stay in his apartment. Kendra provided the phone number for a reentry housing service, but would not give Mother a key to her new place. Mother called me twice. I did not answer. Then, on a humid morning in June, she came to my home. I saw her through the door camera. She stood on the porch with one suitcase, wearing a beige coat despite the heat. For a moment, she looked smaller than I remembered. Then she pressed the bell again and checked her reflection in the glass. I opened the door but kept the security chain fastened. Her eyes moved to my cane near the wall. "You still need that?" she asked. It was the first thing she said to me after prison. On some days, she nodded as though confirming a suspicion. "I have nowhere to go. Kendra gave you information about temporary housing. She abandoned me. She gave you an option you did not want. I am your mother." "I know." Her grip tightened around the suitcase handle. "I paid for your life for years." "No. You used my money and called it payment for loving me. I kept you alive. Doctors kept me alive. Insurance, the trust, and the settlement paid most of the bills. You cared for me. And then you used that care as a deed to everything that belonged to me." Her mouth tightened. "Are you going to leave me outside? You need somewhere to live. That does not make my home yours. You would close the door on your own mother?" I looked at the woman who had once believed every limit was temporary if she waited long enough to make me feel guilty. Yes, I closed the door. She knocked 3 times. Then she left. I did not feel triumphant. I stood in the entryway until the sound of her suitcase wheels disappeared down the path. My hands were shaking, and my back had begun to ache from standing too long. Closing the door did not erase the hospital, the trial, or the years before them. It meant those years no longer granted her entry. A few weeks later, Nora came over for dinner. She talked while carrying plates to the table, complaining about a manager who scheduled meetings through lunch and acted surprised when everyone became irritable. I pulled out my chair. Before sitting, I checked the seat, the legs, and the space behind me. The habit had never gone away. Nora saw me pause. She did not ask whether I was afraid. She did not tell me the chair was safe or urge me to stop being cautious. She placed one hand on the back of it and held it steady while continuing her story. I lowered myself slowly. The chair did not move. At my sister's wedding, my family pulled the seat away because they wanted my body to prove I was lying. Nora held it in place without asking me to prove anything at all. I sat down, and she let go. You should never confuse control with care, even when it comes from someone who raised you. Real support does not hide documents, speak over you, use your pain for profit, or demand permanent authority as payment for past sacrifices. When someone manages your money, medical records, legal papers, or personal accounts, you have the right to review every document, ask direct questions, revoke outdated permissions, and choose an independent professional to help you. Being intelligent does not mean you will never overlook a warning sign. It means that once the facts become clear, you stop reacting emotionally, preserve evidence, seek qualified advice, and make decisions that protect your future. You can recognize that a relative was manipulated without excusing the harm they knowingly caused. You can accept an apology without restoring access to your home, finances, or private life. Forgiveness, reconciliation, and trust are separate choices, and none of them should be forced by guilt. Most importantly, needing help after an injury or crisis does not make you incapable. The right people will support your choices without taking ownership of them. If this story reminded you to protect your boundaries and trust actions over family titles, subscribe to the channel and stay with us for more stories about women who reclaim their voice, dignity, and control.